Hello everybody, welcome to the video of the results of week 4 of the 2018 SpaceChem Tournament. This week we have this puzzle, Unpacking, in which we are turning this sulfur rod made of 4 sulfur atoms into this huge stack of polyethylene made by 8 repeating subunits of CHH. Now, the math works out so that one sulfur split exactly into 2 rows of polyethylene, so an input transforms cleanly into one output. Now, let's talk a bit about the metric. This is an even week, so we have a mainly symbols metric, and the actual metric was symbols plus used flip-flops plus used bonders. Now, the symbols part is straightforward. About the flip-flop part, well, without going on a rant on how much I hate flip-flop abuse, let's just say that in this level there is several things you need to, let's say, count, because you need to know at which point you are in transforming a sulfur into 1 and then 2 rows. You need to know at which point you are in consuming the sulfur rod. You need to know at which point you are into building the polyethylene so that you can output it at the right point. And all these are tasks that are done either by a sensor or by flip-flops. And I thought it would be interesting to, let's say, gently nudge players in doing as much as they could with the sensor, and we'll see solutions that really embraced this thing and used this sensor to its fullest extent. Then the latest part of the metric, the bonders. Let's just say that it turned out a little differently than how I thought it at the beginning. So the main reason I added bonders into the metric was that I thought the best solution would end up using 6 to 8 bonders, so that the addition of bonders wouldn't have altered that much the standing, the relative standings, but they could have uniformed a bit the scores, so that if a solution would have scored 40 with the rest of the metric, I would expect it to score 48, and then so on, adding around 6 to 8 to each score. I did this because, seeing the results of the previous rounds, I've noticed that symbols assignment have a much larger spread, with the 10th place clocking at around 7 points of metric and many people staying at 5 or even 4 points. While symbols assignment have this problem, cycles assignment have been much more compact, with 10th place coming at around 9 metric points and an overall higher average metric. So if I had continued in the same way, I would be gaining a disproportionate weight to symbols puzzle. As it turns out, optimizing for bonder is a viable strategy in this level. So we will see that many interesting solutions actually make use of few bonders and gain a lot of places for that. But let's just start with the first one. This is Zlat's solution. Now this is kinda complicated, so let's just see. It starts with red by doing a fission fusion loop. Now blue, that was waiting for all the time on this sensor, comes down, picks up an hydrogen, and comes back to pick the other one and puts it here, which is one of the 2 bonding stations that will build the CHH stick. Then red does the same, and again here we are, blue puts down the other oxygens, and now puts back the magnesium again, and now magnesium splits into 2 carbons, and red can start bonding, comes down, moves, bonds, and here we go. 1 sulfur consumed, 2 polyethylene blocks done. We'll just go right ahead to here, in which we didn't get it. Just a moment. Here. So we are using the last sulfur. Red comes around here, regrabs it, drops it, and now he has the whole molecule built at this point, and red grabs the top for the first time. Then this sensor makes him come around, input, grab back, and output. Here we go. Now this solution is kinda heavy, having symbols, having flip-flops, and has pretty light use of sensor. That's because this algorithm of turning this sulfur into here we go, into first silicon, then magnesium, isn't the best strategy for this level. But it's still nice to see different approaches because all the top solution pretty much do the same thing. At least algorithmically. The way they do it is very valid. So let's just go on. This scores 70 symbols plus several points that bring it to 87 metric points. And Peter in second to last place shows what's probably the most amazing algorithm submitted for this level. So he starts by fusing 3 sulfurs into a cadmium, which is 48, and so 6 times 8. This will come in handy later. Then the sulfur is dropped here and then dropped here and split, so we get oxygen, and then beryllium fuse it back, helium fuse it back, hydrogen fuse it back, and now we have 1 hydrogen. After all this looping, we've built 1 hydrogen, and then red will take cadmium and do this great fusion product storing till you get carbon. Now, because cadmium was 8 times 6, the math works out easily, and we get carbon out of it. And red blue goes down and does the same thing with this atom. Why it is so far? Makes 1 stick, and then it keeps going. Blue takes forever to do this hydrogen again, and then red comes in. This time it has a simple carbon, so it isn't split here but just unbonded right there. Comes back, bonds it, and then red grabs back the rest of the stick, and let's wait a bit for blue to do the usual thing. Here we have it. The sync is tricked, red brings back the stick, and here we go. The output is tricked by these flip-flops here. I mean, just it takes a lot, but it takes a lot to run. It is very symbol heavy, but this math, the splitting the hydrogen in this sulfur and the rest in this rod of fission product is really impressive. Congratulations for getting this to work, if anything else. Scores around 85 points of metric. Twisty uses another unconventional algorithm. He has 2 bonded shears to break the rod, and 4 here to bond together the polyethylene row, and then with the rest. So we will see that he has this sulfur split into oxygen, then he splits again and rebonds here, so he has magnesium and beryllium. And now these are kinda nice numbers because this is 2 carbons and this is 4 hydrogens. So it splits it, gets helium, splits the helium, gets hydrogen, and here we go. Red comes back, splits carbon. This rotates here times everything correctly, and we have 1 row. Then red comes back, waits a bit, and we have our 2nd row. Then red will go in, move it back once, and restart the process. The output is controlled by this flip-flop block right here, with 1 here, 1 here. This part is a bit of a mess. It'd be pretty easy to save symbols and cycles by rearranging arrows and moving stuff around a bit. But all in all, there's several inefficiencies here. The only usage of a sensor is right here. This is just not good for the magic of play. Still, a reasonable solution, scores around 81 metric points. Here we go. Now it's RP0 time, and he uses just 4 bonders. Let's see. He uses this pair brought to break up the sulfur rod, and we'll see it later. The sulfur rod is moved out. Then here, we'll see it better later. We broke up an oxygen so that we got our first row, and then blue will bring it here, bond it with the rest that still doesn't exist, come back, split once into beryllium, twice into helium. Now that we have our carbon, splits again and gets hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen. This is pretty much the standard way the HCH row is built, and we'll see it in a lot of other solutions. We can see here the rebonding, and now that we have done one, red comes in, breaks another, and redoes the whole thing. Now, this is an example of low bonded solutions, but using just 4 costs him a ton of symbols, because he has to bring this over, bring this back, bring this over, re-bring this back, and this just costs a ton of symbols and also a ton of time. Let's see, run for a bit till he outputs. This is last sulfur, same thing as before. Here's the next to last, and here we go. Now red comes in, blue comes in with the last one. Here we've bonded. This sensor is trigged, which was here, and also decided at which point we should stop fissing and fusing to get the hydrogen. Comes down here, does a lot of complicated repathing. This has got to be hellish to code. Then grabs, drops, and outputs with red. And here we see he has several arrows to retime everything. It is complicated. Still, great work. Scores around 78 points of metric. Now it's Hyperture's turn with one of the fastest solutions I received. He uses 2 3-2-7 bonders, but he has a ton of flip-flops. Here, 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 and just one sensor used. So let's see. He comes down, splits down oxygen into beryllium, then carbon, and then splits down the helium into these 2 hydrogens. This is a fairly standard construction of the CHH row. Here, 1 and 2. With this, we'll see it in detail in a moment. Here, this fuse grab drop, first time beryllium comes, doesn't fuse into anything but is dropped here, then helium comes, it is fused, and the same Valdo picks up the carbon. This is a very efficient arrangement, and it's used in a ton of solutions. Now let's work this run to see how it outputs. Now clearly red will know when to input a new stick when it comes here and the sensor tells it to go up. But let's see the output condition. Here we go. Here it is. Blue comes down, grabs the bottom, moves all the output into the output zone, and then outputs it. This doesn't trigger each time because the output always sits partially out of bounds. And here we go. This is Haxton J. Park's solution. He is using once again a magnesium strategy. So here some stuff happens that will become apparent later, and here we go. This spade is used just to split the sulfur rod. Then red's here makes a magnesium and leaves here beryllium. That blue will split down and down and down till he has 1 hydrogen, 2 hydrogens, then splits the magnesium, bonds down the carbon, and red comes in and bonds the last one and brings it here. And then the same thing is done with the other carbon and the other 2 hydrogens. Blue does the same loop, sinks, red comes here, and outputs. This is not very symbol efficient, and we'll see there are similar ways to do this without all these ugly arrows and when this awful pathing. Now let's just go on. The only place the sensor is used is here to decide when to output, and together with the output condition, red will also input a new molecule, while blue does just this all the time. I lost that one. Here we'll see it in some seconds. Here we go. Red beams the last, bounds it, moves everything into output zone, and then proceeds, drops outputs. And we are done. Okay, now just a little note. We can prime this right here. It just takes a little bit more for the start to kick in, but it's simple. Fluxer shows off the fastest solution submitted, even though I have to say this input alpha here is bad. Let's just fix it before we start. One here, this one isn't needed, and here we go. So let's just see. He has blue come in, split twice and tries, make a carbon, then picks up the other oxygen, puts it into place, and blue carries up a complete row. By putting the oxygen back here each time, it doesn't need to debond the sulfur rod each time, because here we just keep putting it back, and then when we have a helium split, this bonds breaks naturally, which saves him 2 bonders. And then here we'll see it again. Red drops one, blue drops the other, and here we go. And here we see what I was talking about doing this same sensor here without that ugly thing we've seen earlier. Here we see it. A bond is timed to the sensor point, and so that you can either go straight up or right. Here we go, output it, input it, and we go around again. This scores 64 magic points. Brookyards is next, with a pretty impressive amount of sensor usage, but sadly also a pretty big amount of flip-flops use. He has bonders here for the input rod, bonders here for the output, and bonders here for each row. Now let's see. One sulfur is debonded, there is some dance with the oxygen put here back so the second loop can run the same way. When we build carbon and hydrogen the usual way from beryllium, helium and helium alone, and we've done one. And when we repeat, let's watch it slowly. We have this fuse, and instead of being blue regrabbing the complete carbon with a grab drop, it's red that grabs it, and then reuses sensor here to decide exactly where to go, and rotates here, rotates twice. Everything is timed impressively well, and it's done. Bounce, comes up, and we're done. This flip-flop here will decide when it's time to output, and the most impressive thing is probably that this has no sinks whatsoever, so everything is, all the timing issues are sorted out by this sensor here. Nevertheless, all this building is really symbol heavy, so this solution ends up scoring a not so great 60 magic points. Let's see it run, and we're done. Rexkix comes in with another solution that uses non-bonders for the sulfur rod, but just 3 for the row and 2 to bond the polyethylene. And so let's see, he has very little sensor use it just to decide when to output. Now we have seen some dance. The oxygen is put here to be used later, so we don't put it back into the stick. The stick is broken via the helium fission, as we have seen already done, and then the 2 hydrogen is brought by each folder, and blue holds the row and drops it. Here we see it again, red, here it is, blue brings up the boron, and then does the fuse grab drop we have seen. Then comes back, sinks, and we have both hydrogens and a drop. There is a sensor here with red, let's see it in detail, Come on. Here it is. Blue drops, red assists with a bond, and then the sensor will fire at the correct point to either just output and an input, or grab and drop one up. Here we go. This is pretty much how we imagined a standard solution to this puzzle, plus or minus the bonders here for the sulfur rod, depending on how you want to do it. Looks good, but still pretty far from the top. This is Geek's solution, and as we can see, he has a very similar bonder setup with 2 for the polyethylene, 3 for the row, and 2 for the sulfur rod, but he uses no flip-flops whatsoever, which is great to see, thank you Geeks, and he gets a lot of use of this sensor. Let's see how he does it. Here there is a split, and blue will drop the oxygen here for later use. Then blue does this split sync line, which allows him to split down to hydrogen with very little symbols. We'll see this again. Here we go. Blue does just this, and then blue comes in, grabs one, does the fuse grab drop we mentioned earlier, grabs the last hydrogen, and then here, when blue brings the hydrogens here, red escapes, and we have built another row. Red then comes in and puts it up one space. This is a pretty efficient way to split an initial oxygen into parts. Sadly, blue runs around a lot, and it has a lot of arrows and a lot of sinks to manage this loop, so this ends up being a pretty good amount of symbols. Now let's see how he outputs, because it's really nice. Next to last, and last one. So we have carbon, and the row is done. Blue drops it, bonds it, and sinks. Now blue grabs it here at the top, just a cycle before red will come in and make everything crash. And then it comes up here. This sensor triggers by it's somewhere around here. It is. This sensor has triggered that well, and we have both. Blue just redrops it here and carries back you doing the usual routine, but red is here, he outputs and inputs. All in all, a very nice use of a sensor. Sadly, all these tracks are way too much. Still scores 56 metric points, one better than the previous solution. Neuscher does another metric point better than Geeks, and he has a pretty usual bonder setup, but a pretty unconventional algorithm. So, and he also has no flip-flops whatsoever. Another great solution, thank you Neuscher. So, let's see, he splits the oxygen in 2 and bonds it here. Then he keeps bonding another fission product until he gets to helium, which he cannot bond, and leaves it here. Now blue comes in, fuses, refuses, and we've done, well, not much. Now we do this again, and now that we bring in the second helium, red passes through this branch that has the fuse grab drop, and so we put the carbon in the right place. Blue passes here, but it has nothing to fuse on, so it passes and drops, and red does the last one. This is a really great algorithm to see. It's not perfectly efficient, but this conditional fusing and not fusing based on if there is a seed here or not is really cool to watch. Really nice. Now if we go on, we'll see he has a similar setup to the one we saw earlier with Geek's solution, with back sensor here which grabs up, and the other sensor here so that red can go into the escape route, and we will see, I missed it, and we will see here an outputting beryllium here. Last beryllium is grabbed flawlessly, carbon, hydrogen, hydrogen, and here we go. Red, blue steals the polyethylene, red comes in, helps bonding, and then outputs, and the cycle restarts with with a sulfur rod reset. Really cool to watch. And as I said, it scores 55 metric points. Here we have Zig's solution, who uses just 2 bonders for the CHH row, and then 2 for the polyethylene and 2 for the sulfur rod. He also has this blue Waldo doing very little and red doing everything else. It's pretty surprising that he manages to keep red doing everything with just 3 flip-flops. So let's see. Red grabs a rod, splits 1 oxygen, and blue will keep it safe till it's needed. Here we have the usual fuse grab drop, and then everything is bonded here cleanly by the use of the right pass. We've done one row and we do it again. And blue just does nothing but bond right here at command, so we have the efficient sensor deposition loop and pretty much nothing else. This looks pretty clean, but all these loops with red ends up costing it a fair amount. He is just 1 metric point better than the previous solution. Sorry, 2 metric points better than the previous solution. Now, this is Bo Parent solution, who scores the same 53 metric points as Zig's, but it's slightly faster. It's not like it matters much, because this is just the 12th place, so there are no placements point at stake. Now let's see. He has the usual fuse grab drop part to do with carbon. And let's see it run better. Here we go. Fuse grab drop has a carbon. Does the same for the hydrogen because it doesn't really matter. Then just grab the other hydrogen, has a row, and puts it here. The sync is timed. This is pretty much like Zig's solution. It's just arranged a little bit differently, using no bonders here, but having a more complicated helper valve. This whole thing runs in just 2+1 flip-flops, but uses very little the sensor because it's only used here to do the usual output decision. Here we go. Counterpoint in with 11th place with 2 bonders and a bit more sensor usage. So let's see. He has the usual way with the carbon when he has a sensor to do the hydrogen exceptions. And here rotates, reflectance, the other one. We have a row ready, and then it puts it here and brings it down. What it is a bit unconventional is the way he decides the output condition. That's because red isn't helping blue isn't helping red bond, but it's just running through a huge bunch of sinks. So that right here we go. At this sink, blue is ready, red bonds, and before red can grab and make everything crash, blue will output, bring in a new molecule, and we're done. Red comes in and repeats the cycle, scoring 51 metric points, just out of the top 10. Macrash here, with 49 metric points, has these 3 bonders and 2 bonders set up with pretty minimal sensor use, and he has this really efficient red loop. Blue just picks up an oxygen and then red splits, grabs, drops, puts the carbon here, reuses the loop to bring the carbon to the correct position, and then blue, who has wasted a ton of time, comes in and does a stick. Here we go. Let's see this again, right here. Blue just wastes a lot of time and red does all the work with this really compact and nice loop. Let's see the output condition that is here. We have a row formed, that's the last one. And here we go. This flip-flop here would go up to bring down the molecule, but the sensor doesn't allow this. And this other sensor just comes in, outputs and inputs. Now this is a real compact solution. In this does a huge amount of work, and this is pretty efficient too. The big downside is that wasting time with blue takes a huge amount of arrows and especially flip-flops. This, just for the symbol, would score a lot better if flip-flops weren't counted twice, but as it stands, sadly, it's not the ideal algorithm to use here. But still, this is a pretty cool solution and well deserving of a 10th place. The previous one uses more symbols, 44, but uses just 3 bonders. I'll be honest, I didn't anticipate this at all. And it does this by splitting the rod in place and then building the row in place, so that it needs really few bonders. Now we see red do the usual fuse drop loop, and here it's a bit complicated, but blue is doing sensor stalls to set the timing. Here we have the usual loop here, then red senses, brings 1, blue wakes up from the sensor stall and brings the carbon, then red gets in a special branch, brings the other hydrogen and bonds it, and we are done. This is honestly pretty complicated in handling, and here we have seen one. Let's see it run with the oxygen here. Red picks up the oxygen, then picks up the hydrogen, and then comes back and puts the oxygen into the right place. And when we start splitting, and blue has these 2 hydrogen sensors which set the time. Now let's see its output condition. We see it here. Here we have it. Blue has grabbed the top of the molecule. It uses the back sensor, as you have seen in several other solutions, and red uses a similar sensor to goes in the output branch by outputting and then inputting a new molecule. This is a really nice use, and we'll start seeing sensor stall, which will play a very large part in top solution, but this is still complicated and a little bit symbol heavy. Cactus has a mixed bonder setup with 2 bonders here and 2 here used for the row, and the 2 here used for the polyethylene. So he breaks the rod in place. Has red wait out its turn using a sensor stall. Blue is doing the usual thing with hydrogen and carbon. Red comes in, leaves the oxygen, grabs the hydrogen, and has made 1 row. Then comes in to bring the oxygen in and waits it out. Let's follow blue. Blue grabs, drops, fuses, keeps up and drops. Does the same thing with hydrogen. Hydrogen gives the clock, and here we go. Let's see the output condition. Here it is. This sensor stall here is pretty much free, same cost as an arrow, but allows everything to be timed correctly, so that blue steals the molecule here before red can crush everything, and then once we are sure nothing bad is happening, red gets into the output branch, outputs, inputs, and the cycle restarts. This scores the same exact metric amount as the previous one, but it's slightly faster, granting Cactus a better placement. Atom 8 is the first one to get 140 symbols, and let's see, he has 2 bonders here for the sulfur rod and 3 here to build the row and bond the polyethylene. And let's see what he does. There is a little bit of initial dance, and here we go. We have red holding the extra oxygen, blue doing the usual dance, and we have the oxygen dropped here to be used later. Blue comes in and picks up all the pieces. Here we have, and then red is triggered by this sensor and can do the next iteration. Now the next iteration is more interesting because I lost it. I lost it again. Here. So this stall here is cleared when we bring in the first hydrogen, and red comes to move the molecule out of the way, stalling here, which sadly costs him an arrow, and once everything is built, red puts the molecule back and goes on. This is a pretty neat way of using just 3 bonders to bond, otherwise it would have taken him at least a full other one. Let's see, I missed the output condition. Here we have it. Red comes in. Let's wait. Here we go. Because red goes there when it has an oxygen to hold, but the last time it ran, it has no oxygen, and it just goes straight on and outputs and inputs. All in all, it's a nice solution for the 7th place. In 6th place, we have Biggie Mac, who keeps climbing and climbing the leaderboard assignment after assignment. This is another 3-bonder solution, and let's see. There is some little dance at the beginning, and then he has the splitter on the right and the fuser on the left. This is a pretty unconventional choice, and he has right here blue pick up all the pieces, helped by some flip-flops here, because the sensor uses just as an output condition. Let's see the precise algorithm. Red comes in, splits out half, brings it back, splits it again and then again, so that red ends up holding an hydrogen and blue, let's see it, red again. Okay, so first time red just splits an oxygen and puts the rod back for later. Here the action starts, red splits away a beryllium, then this beryllium is split here, red holds an helium, blue the other one. There is this fuse split, so that blue ends up holding an hydrogen and red a carbon, and then blue will come in helped by this flip-flop, picking up all the pieces. And here we have the usual sensor arrangement, with red doing its own bond. Here we see the output condition. Here we go. Blue inputs and the cycle repeats. Really tight input grab time. I really didn't think 3-bonder solution would be competitive, but I am being proved wrong. Well, this is just what happens when you deal with best players, and we'll see even more impressive 3-bonder solutions up there. In 5th place we have Chaboka, who makes an apparison in top 10 after being in the bottom half for the previous rounds. He has just one sensor, which is used for the usual outputting, and just 2 flip-flops, and uses 2 bonders for polyethylene and 3 for the row. So how does he do the complex logic, given that red is this simple? He does it with sinks. So many sinks. So slow sinks. I'm not exactly a fan of this solution, but hey, it works pretty well. So red is doing the fuse grab thing with carbon and then the hydrogen, and as we have a complete molecule, red brings it here, waits for the right moment so that this bond command is reused, and we're done. The oxygen, that we will see it better later. Here we have blue drops the oxygen here to be reused later, and it picks it up on the way back, and we repeat. Let's see how it outputs. Here we are breaking up the oxygen, and here we go. Sinks. Red has just this one sinks, but blue has this, and yeah, takes a while. Here we go, bonds, drops, outputs, and inputs. Nice job. And it's just 38 symbols. number of symbols will shrink rapidly now that we are at the top of the ranking. In fourth place we have Top Thought with 43 metric points and just 57 symbols. This solution isn't so different from Chaboka's one. We have 2 bonders for the row and 2 for the polyethylene. Red does this loop with just 1 sink, and blue does all the rest with ton of sinks and this single sensor for the output condition. So let's see. Rod is broken in place. Red does the whole dance himself. Here we have it. Then blue waits here for red to kick in the last hydrogen, which I suppose saves him a bonder. And here we have. Let's watch it again. Last hydrogen kicks in. Blue drops. And as we keep seeing sulfur here, blue keeps going. Usual loop. And in the output condition, we have red here. And now blue has to hurry up or red will go and screw up everything up, but he gets here before the problems, inputs a new one, and we repeat. Let's just see here, we drop initial oxygen, and we don't come back till later to pick it up and restart the cycle. Congratulations to Thought for 4th place. GG Gol holds the 3rd place, and we'll start seeing weird stuff. Now, he has these 4 bonders with which he built the polyethylene and the row, and then he has 2 bonders at the top to manage the rod. He needs them because he adds from the top, unlike every other solution I've seen. And then red builds here the carbon in the usual way. And then when hydrogen passes here, this sensor is trigged and blue comes in all this huge time waster loop and leaves the hydrogen here, comes back, puts down the rod, grabs it, and this cycle restarts. With here we go, bond and redo. Here we see this flip-flop, which is the only one in this solution. Use it to decide to bring back the molecule for rebonding or going up to waste time. And let's just see how red behaves with a full oxygen stick. It just doesn't bother putting the oxygen back, and so he will start consuming this stick till it's finished. This is something, well, pretty weird. This is also really cool to watch. I mean, congratulations GG Gol just for thinking about something like this. People that putting back the fission product usually did it from the bottom. So now that we have completed the molecule, we see that red has triggered the hydrogen sensor, which is here, and also is triggered only when the molecule is completed, and inputs. This is all really close, and then blue will come back to drop and red outputs. Really cool to see. And this scores 41 metric points. 42, sorry. Now this is Handy's solution, and he scores 38 metric points, so there is this really big gap between the 3rd and the 2nd solution. This uses just 3 bonders, and I was extremely surprised to see it, to be honest. This is pretty similar to Big Mac's solution, in that he has red manage this the sulfur rod with a splitter and fuser inverted. Here blue builds the C with the usual fuse grab drop, then picks up the pieces. We have already seen this sensor here and this line to do this stuff. Then we see red uses sensor stall as a way to tame waste, while blue comes in, picks back up the rod and does the same thing back again. Now after this fuse the rod is free, so that red will be able to grab it again and repeat the cycle. And another part is built, and here we go. Now this is just one flip-flop, and this really simple and very simple light time wasting stalls, and all in all it's really well done. Let's see how it outputs. Beryllium, carbon, hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen. This is pretty much how it was, and oh, I lost it, sorry. So let's see it again. Right here. And here we go. Red has nothing to grab, doesn't get into the sulfur sensor, which by the way also provides direction change and outputs and inputs. Really great job, Andy, but this time you were beaten. Beaten by Reasons. Congratulations for your first time at the top, Reasons, with this solution. This has an amazing 30 symbols and uses absolutely no flip-flops. This is really how I really hoped a solution to this puzzle will turn out. And it uses 7 bonders, 2 for polyethylene, 3 for the row, and 2 for the rod. So let's see. Blue comes in, holds the oxygen. Red does this really simple, efficient way to build the whole row using this sensor here, and then it bonds here to move the whole stack along, and it will bond and reuse the grab job. Then we build another time, and while we are doing this the row is raised, and we continue. Blue in the meantime has been wasting time using this clean looking stalls. We just lose an arrow here, but there isn't another way to maneuver in these really tight spaces. Here we go. Everything is triggered by the appearance of hydrogens right here. 1 hydrogen and 2 hydrogens, then another hydrogen, and the last one. This solution is pretty fast. We see at 500 cycles we are already done. And then blue outputs with a standard method, because he isn't holding an oxygen. He comes back, outputs and inputs. Congratulations again, Reasons, for this really great solution, and we'll just watch it run for a bit. Let's get it to the fun parts. Looking real great, and this beats Andy just by 1 magic point. Looks great. Congratulations again, Reasons. As a last solution, I wanted to show this one by Andy, which would have scored 43 magic points, good enough for 5th place, clearly not good enough for Andy. So this came out a little bit disastrous from the importing, but the important bits are still here. This Phantom Valdo isn't really useful. So turns out you can do this whole thing with just a single Valdo. Now I don't really pretend to know how this works. These 2 bonders are used to build a row, but a lot of atoms pass here and then here, and well, it just, when we have sensors here that are used, let's just see the output condition moment. Here, when we sense hydrogen and not oxygen, we have this line is really trafficked, because sensing the oxygen brings it up, sensing hydrogen brings it down, and then in the output condition, here we go, we are sensing nothing, so it bonds and outputs. Well, let's just watch it run. Honestly, it's not competing, but it looks really great. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys for the next round next week.